Meanwhile, there's been a lot of discussion about vaccinations and a political divide since the pandemic began, but was the topic of vaccines polarized before 2020? Well, one Creighton professor says yes, it was, and has done the research to back up that theory. 3 News Now reporter Aaron Hegarty digs into that research.
2015. That's about the time childhood vaccination policies became a left-right polarized issue, according to new research from a team at Creighton University. It's a hot topic in the public health field. Some nearly eradicated diseases are making a comeback due to a lack of vaccinations. Kevin Estep says they started by looking at legislation from across the country all the way back to 1995.
Being a Republican or Democrat didn't necessarily predict which direction you might go. But starting in 2015 and going to 2020, there's a significant increase in the alignment of partisanship with positions on childhood immunization bills.
So why does it matter?
In some ways that's disheartening because public health policy would work best if it was in some ways divorced from partisan conflicts where we can just think about what's safe and what does the evidence suggest.
And is there any significance with the year 2015? Early that year, a highly publicized measles outbreak began at Disneyland in California. It kicked off a lot of conversation on school vaccination policies.
And I was on the ground talking with parents in California, and I realized this is going to be a big issue.
Annika Muse worked on the study as an undergrad student at Creighton. She just started pharmacy school at UNMC and says it's important to understand the intersection of public policy and her field.
I think it definitely gives insight into some of the difficulties that you might face in having interactions with patients just when I'm trying or attempting to give them some sort of counsel.
And yes, things have become more polarized on the topic since the pandemic began in 2020.
But the data show that it's clearly just a continuation of a trend that was happening for years beforehand.
But vaccinations are just part of the story. He says there are many issues that are becoming polarized that weren't before.
Then it becomes harder and harder to relate to people who have different political views than you because our lives just increasingly look very different.
On campus, Aaron Hegarty, 3 News Now.